frontman and drummer tandem had a fight on stage. Who's the frontman who accused Ozzfest organizers of sabotaging their set? And which band triggered a riot after cutting their performance short? The world of rock and roll has never been short on drama. In fact, the stage seems to be the preferred place for rock musicians to unleash their most unpredictable and intense emotions. From legendary outbursts to shocking antics, rockers have taken the stage and turned it into a canvas for their wild and sometimes controversial behavior. While some meltdowns were called for, many were the result of too much drinking. Whatever the story may be, these moments help make the rock and roll industry more colorful. In this video, we'll dive into the tales of rock musicians who have had their meltdowns take center stage. Danny Worsnop. Meltdowns on stage aren't only a result of a bad night or frustrations. Some meltdowns can actually be very life-changing. That's what happened to Danny Worsnop of Asking Alexandria in 2011. During a show in Seattle, Danny Worsnop, lead vocalist of Asking Alexandria, performed while heavily intoxicated. He was struggling to maintain his composure throughout the set, which led the crowd to chant, "Drunk piece of you-know-what." At one point, guitarist Ben Bruce intervened, saying, "Let's do a vote right effing now. Who prefers Danny the way he is?" Barely anyone from the crowd raised their hands. But Danny continued shouting less than kind words. Ben continued his intervention. "Ignore him! Who here will support us in putting my best friend through rehab and making him better?" The crowd raised their hands and cheered, which led Ben to thank everyone for supporting him. The band continued to play, but Danny, unable to keep his composure anymore, started singing while lying on his back. This eventually led crew members to remove him from the stage, prompting the band to get a vocalist from the crowd. The incident in Seattle led Danny to eventually get the help he needed, as encouraged by his best friend Ben. He went to rehab a year later and came back to become the band's vocalist again when he fully recovered in 2016. Nikki Sixx. Many people aren't surprised when an outburst happens on stage, but some incidents become too much that rockers get jailed. In 1997, Motley Crue bassist Nikki Sixx was arrested on charges of inciting a riot during a concert in Greensboro Coliseum. It all started when Nikki claimed to see a security guard being rough on fans. He stopped the show to call out the African-American security guard, saying racial slurs toward him.
Yeah, bring the lights up, this big f***ing asshole. You know what, motherfucker? You're a big f***ing black man. You feel pretty...
The situation became more intense when Nikki not only continued to hurl racial slurs, but also encouraged the people in the crowd to kick his ass. Right after the event, the security guard filed a lawsuit against the band. Nikki faced one felony riot charge and misdemeanors for inciting a riot. He was given a 30-day suspended jail sentence and put on probation. Ultimately, in the same year, the security guard and the band reached a settlement privately. Bruce Dickinson. Ozzfest 2005 is probably one of the most memorable years for the music festival. For starters, it was the last year that Iron Maiden played the festival, and for good reason. Not all on-stage meltdowns happen because of the bands themselves. Sometimes they really are sabotaged. That was the case for Iron Maiden. When the band took the stage in Ozzfest 2005, things got out of hand quickly. Several members of the crowd suddenly started throwing eggs and bottle caps onto the stage, aiming at Bruce Dickinson, Iron Man's frontman. Bruce then had a meltdown, urging fans to attack and break the arms of those who were sabotaging their set. Not long after the egg throwing, the band experienced several technical difficulties. At some point, they even had their microphones completely shut off. Most of the band's members found the situation funny, but not Bruce. While on stage and trying to get through what was happening, he accused the organizers of deliberately sabotaging them. In an interview with Sharon Osbourne after the incident, she admitted that she was behind what happened to Iron Maiden. She said she had no problems with the other band members, but that Bruce disrespected Ozzfest publicly. So he deserved public revenge too.
Why do they raise their arm? Make sure that when it goes down, it's in two pieces.
The Ataris. Who knew that instruments could be used for other things than playing with them? In 2012, the Ataris were playing a show in New Jersey when frontman Chris Rowe and drummer Rob Felicetti had an altercation. Rob was said to have drank too much on stage and was too intoxicated to play properly. This did not please Chris at all. So he did what no one expected him to do. He used his guitar and the drum kit to really show Rob how annoyed he was. After throwing as many instruments as he could at Rob, Chris apologized to the crowd and told him that he'd finished their set by himself. In an interview after the event, Chris said that what had happened was just a part of rock and roll and nothing else. That's one way to put it.
But I'm going to finish the set by myself. I'll play a few songs, whatever you want to hear, but I can't do this. Sorry.
Van Halen. We all know that Van Halen's considered one of the rock legends, so imagine how excited people were when they found out that the original group members were reuniting in 1996 for the MTV Video Music Awards. Everyone was happy to be part of such a momentous event, but the happiness didn't really last long. While presenting the award for Best Male Video, David Lee Roth went off script more than once, which wasn't to the delight of his bandmates Eddie Van Halen, who was visibly irritated by David's antics, tried his best not to be carried away by the incident. But he had to intervene by pulling David away from the microphone. Eddie got his response through more crazy antics from David. After a tension-filled moment, the band was able to announce the winner, but David had more tricks up his sleeve. David got the spotlight away from the winner, Beck, by dancing behind him while Beck was giving his acceptance speech. After the whole fiasco, David and Eddie allegedly almost had a fistfight backstage. Their planned reunion was immediately canceled. A totally understandable move.
Okay.
Josh Homme. Queens of the Stone Age isn't really known for their wild meltdowns. They might not be the first band that people think of when it comes to random outbursts on stage, but in 2017, Josh Homme surprised a lot of fans with what he did. In the middle of a show, Josh was, according to his words, lost in the music he was playing. He was walking near the edge of the stage, and when he was on his way back to his original position, he suddenly kicked a photographer's camera. The photographer, Chelsea Lauren, had to get medical treatment that night because she suffered injuries on her neck and head. In an interview, she claimed that it was an intentional act from Josh, who looked her in the eye before he kicked her camera. She even provided photos to prove her claim. It wasn't long before Josh owned up to his mistakes. Aside from writing an apology online, he also posted a video apology, saying there was no excuse or justification for what he did. Surprisingly, though, that wasn't the only thing he did that night. He also verbally abused fellow performer's muse and called the audience a slur. One thing's for sure, that night was a night filled with outbursts for Josh Homme.
To justify what I did, I was a total dick.
Billy Joe Armstrong. I'm sure everyone, even those who aren't fans of the band, knows the widely publicized onstage meltdown of Green Day's Billy Joe Armstrong. Although Billy Joe is already known for his wild moments on stage, the incident during a performance at the iHeartRadio Music Festival in 2012 took many people by surprise. Concert organizers from the iHeartRadio Festival allegedly cut Green Day's time short to give way to other acts like Usher, so when they told Billy Joe that he had only a minute to wrap up their set, he went on a drunken rant. His frustration with the situation boiled over, leading to an expletive-laden outburst directed at the festival organizers. He told them that what was happening was an effing joke. After his sudden outburst, he then destroyed his guitar and gave the middle finger before exiting the stage. Long after the incident, Billy Joe admitted in an interview that he wasn't proud of what happened, and that he just couldn't bring himself to watch the video of his meltdown.
I'm not f***ing Justin Bieber, you motherfuckers. This is a f***ing joke.
Nirvana. Nirvana doesn't have only one meltdown. In fact, they're always known to end their shows by having a wild outburst of destroying their instruments. If you look online, you can find compilation after compilation of them doing this. For the band, though, the act of instrument destruction isn't just a meltdown. According to Kurt Cobain, it had a purpose. They intentionally destroy their instruments after they play so that when they play a good show, it's a distorted kind of celebration to end their set on a high note. On the other hand, if they played a mediocre show, destroying their instruments was a way to release their frustration and give their fans something to make up for it. It's a genius tactic that worked for a while, with some fans thinking the band was just having an outburst. However, it wasn't long before the crowd anticipated it at the end of their show, so towards the end of their career, the band purposely made the instrument destruction longer to make fun of themselves, too. Axl Rose. No list would ever be complete without the most notorious of them all, Axl Rose. Axl has a long list of meltdowns, each one topping the other with how wild it is. But nothing could ever top him starting a literal riot in a brand new concert venue. In 1991, Guns N' Roses was invited to play in the newly reopened Riverport Amphitheater in Missouri. Throughout their set, there was one fan who wouldn't stop taking photos of Axl Rose. Although this is a normal occurrence today, this wasn't really usual in the early 90s. Completely annoyed by the fan who kept taking photos of him, Axl asked the security to get the camera and do something. But unfortunately for him, the security didn't do anything. So he took matters into his own hands and dove into the crowd. He then reached for the fan and took the camera away from him. Afterward, he gave the fan a solid punch in the face. Once Axl was done, he went back on stage and blamed the security for what happened, telling the fans that he was going home. In true Axl Rose fashion, he even threw his microphone before leaving. His band followed suit, and what happened after made this incident one of the most memorable events in rock history. The venue went wild. All the chairs became weapons for people to hurl at each other. At one point, there was allegedly a man with a knife who made it on stage. The riot ended with the venue destroyed and over 40 people injured. It became so historical that many documentaries were made about the event. These meltdowns on stage prove just how unpredictable the world of rock music can be. But these are also what bring life and color to the industry. The overflow of passion is always bound to bring these outbursts.